What I tell you in darkness, that speak ye in light, and what ye hear in the ear, that preach ye upon the house tops. And fear not them which kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul, but rather fear him which is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a farthing, and one of them shall not fall on the ground without your Father, but the very hairs of your head are all numbered. Fear ye not, therefore, ye are of more value than many sparrows. Whosoever therefore shall confess me before men, him will I confess also before my Father, which is in heaven. But whosoever shall deny me before men, him will I also deny before my Father which is in heaven. Think not that I am come to send peace on earth, but I came not to send peace, but a sword. For I am come to set a man at variance against his father, and the daughter against her mother, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And a man's foes shall be they of his own household. He that loveth a father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and he that loveth a son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me, and he that taketh not his cross and followeth after me is not worthy of me. He that findeth his life shall lose it, and he that loseth his life for my sake shall find it. He that receiveth you receiveth me, and he that receiveth me receiveth him that sent me. He that receiveth a prophet in the name of a prophet shall receive a prophet's reward, and he that receiveth a righteous man in the name of a righteous man shall receive a righteous man's reward. And whosoever shall give to drink unto one of these little ones a cup of cold water, only in the name of a disciple, verily I say unto you, he shall in no wise lose his reward. Chapter 11. So that was the end of chapter 10. Chapter 10 of St. Matthew, the book of Matthew, according to the book of the Gideons. Verse 27. Verse 27 to 42. 27 to 42. Chapter 10 of the Bible. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So that was just a little preamble. That was just a little disclaimer, just a little perfunctory Pledge of Allegiance there. First, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag, to the ideals of what the flag believes in, not to the flag itself, not to that piece of fabric, to the ideals, to the greatest ideals of all mankind. I'll pledge allegiance to the greatest ideals of all mankind and to the republic for which it stands, the constitutional republic, democracy, republic. We are talking about, the same thing, slightly different. If you don't have elections, you don't have a fucking republic. You got to have elections at the bare minimum for a republic. It's based in democracy, okay? So 13 governor's races upcoming in 2024. We got to get some progressives elected in West Virginia, North Carolina, Missouri, Indiana, Delaware, and North Dakota. Why in those states? Because in West Virginia, North Carolina, Missouri, Indiana, Delaware, and North Dakota, a little less for North Dakota, but definitely fucking Delaware, Indiana, Missouri, North Carolina, and West Virginia, we progressives can take those states. Although governors in those states are term limited, so it's an open seat, it's going to be a brand new Democrat, a brand new Republican. For continuity, probably assume the political party of the current governor. He's going to try to pick a successor if he's smart, a good successor, like how Caesar picked Augustus, Octavian Augustus. That was a good call by Julius Caesar. Goddamn Brutus and motherfucking Mark Antony and goddamn Cleopatra. Bafam Goo, wasn't it? I thought Caesar was for the Republic or against the Republic. I don't mind Empire for about a second, for about a year, but then come back in and then, do UBI, RCA, RCV, ranked choice voting, universal basic income, constitutional convention. So West Virginia, North Carolina, Missouri, Indiana, Delaware, they're term limited. The governor's going to have to step down in 2024. This is the same time when you have all these fucking presidential elections. All the presidential. You're going to have Marianne might run against fucking Biden. Most likely going to be Biden, right? They're starting this shit. They're already rigging this shit in South Carolina. So the way the Democrats just, told everybody to get in line behind this right-wing conservative fucking piece of shit. Now I'll get in line behind Marianne Williamson. You want me to get in line? Give me a fucking liberal. Give me a goddamn progressive. When you're driving the car, I want somebody that's looking out the windshield, not somebody that's, staring off to the goddamn side view mirror, the fucking rear view mirror, sitting there, Grandpa groping. It's time for Grandpa groping sniff. If anything, he's barely even there, just kind of weekend at Bernie's him, right? Just kind of take him here and there and tell him a bunch of Martin Luther King and Che Guevara quotes. Just fill his head and fill his mouth up with MLK and Martin Luther King. He's saying that weaponizing the English language is so important. You got to say something, okay? If you're actually doing something, that makes the English language a lot more powerful. Actions speak louder than words. So do the damn thing and then put some beautiful language on it, right? Gettysburg was a major turning point in the Civil War. The Gettysburg Address was the creme de la creme. It was the cherry on motherfucking top. This is why we had all this bloodshed that had happened right here. Over 50,000 Americans died in 3 days. That's the bloodiest 3 days, I think, in all the Americas. I don't know. Cortez and Mexico City, they killed a lot of people down there. The Inca, the Spanish conquist, the Soto, motherfucking Ponce de Leon. Don't ask any goddamn Floridian about no Ponce de Leon, huh? Who the fuck is that? In fact, don't even ask anybody that's been educated in the public schools about no Ponce de Leon. Well, he was looking for the fountain of youth, maybe, but he was a conquistador, so he was there to conquer and take fucking sugar and land and slaves, right? Ponce de Leon, fucking one of the early, 1513. And that when he discovered Florida, 1513. Columbus sailed the ocean blue. That fucking goddamn sick fuck. Murdered 500,000 Tainos, motherfucking Columbus, Spanish, motherfucking... I guess the English are probably the most barbaric, right? Because we're still here. And Spanish Florida is actually going to welcome the escaped runaway slaves into their midst for a duration. So some of the Spanish and some of the French royalty were actually against slavery. And that's actually kind of brilliant. Monarchs are fucking crap, but when you get a monarch, when you get an Abraham Lincoln that just comes by and fucking smashes slavery till the end of all time, fucking brilliant. Is Abraham Lincoln not a goddamn fucking artiste? So I'm trying to do some work here, so let's just get to the nitty gritty. West Virginia, that fucking backwards ass, stupid ass state. It's basically, Kentucky's younger cousin, dumber cousin, but actually it might be smarter because West Virginia, the history of West Virginia, it was formed during the Civil War. So it's very much, started with being, a lot of good, righteous Caucasians. So West Virginia, Appalachia in the mountains, it's part Virginia, part Kentucky, kind of in its own thing, right? But it's almost sometimes it's like a race to the bottom. And since, when I think of Kentucky, West Virginia, I think, they are kind of some of the worst states in the Union. But when I think of Alabama and Mississippi, they probably fucking race to the bottom even worse. And so at least West Virginia is better than Mississippi. At least Kentucky and West Virginia is better than Alabama and Mississippi. Well, Dave Chappelle said that racism down in Mississippi was stewed to a perfection. So West Virginia, there's also that fucking Richard Ojeda. He should run for governor. West Virginia, fucking that one bitch-ass fucking senator. Is he going to be the governor? Well, get him to fucking retire the Senate chair and get him to be the governor. Fucking dickhead is sitting there clogging up our fucking shit. North Carolina, Missouri, Indiana, Delaware, and then find the progressives and champion the progressives. Do we even have a progressive out there? You're going to have a Republican, a Democrat? Are they doing ranked choice voting? Do they have a constitution? Do they have a libertarian or a Green Party person? Delaware, Indiana, Missouri, North Carolina, West Virginia, North Dakota. So let's just go down the line here. Governor Jim Justice, term limited by the West Virginia Constitution in 2024, is ineligible to seek re-election for a third consecutive term. Businessman and son of U.S. Representative Carol Miller, Chris Miller, is running for the Republican gubernatorial, the governor's race. Gubernatorial is a shitty, stupid word. I have to agree with Kalinsky on that one. The governor is like the fucking presidency, the elected president. And by these being laboratories of democracy, right? 50 states. We should have a celebration of our Constitution, Bill of Rights, and our 50 nifty United States. How long we been 50 fucking state union? The whole idea of the U.S. Constitution is to form a more perfect union. So us 50 fucking states, that we've stuck it out for quite some time. You know, I kid and I say it's okay for some of the states to go ahead and leave the nation. I'd be a little sad about, you know, any of them that wanted to leave. Is it that fucking bad? And what was so great about... So see, Missouri, Indiana, Delaware. Okay, so Auditor of West Virginia, J.B. McCuskey. Oh my God, McCuskey. J.B. McCuskey. I like reading his name. Old J.B. Who's this? Carol Miller? Oh, it's Chris Miller versus J.B. McCuskey. No, Jim Justice is there, but he's term limited by the West Virginia Constitution in 2024. He can't run again. North Carolina, you got the Governor Ray Cooper. He was reelected to a second term in 2020 with 51.5% of the vote. He barely got in there. And he's term limited by the North Carolina Constitution in 2024. So he can't seek re-election. So both Jim Justice, Roy Cooper, Mike Parson of Missouri, Eric Holcomb, and John Carney, they're out. They're all fucking out. So you're going to have a brand new fucking day, a brand new policy, a brand new everything. Even if you have a Democrat that's following a Democrat, that's not the same person. They're going to have, you know, either the majority of the policies or half the policies, or they're only going to be consistent with their predecessor for, you know, so many things. So you have to make sure the main things, right? You want continuity. And since if you had a good run with the previous governor in Delaware, he's term limited by the Delaware Constitution. So John Carney cannot seek re-election for the third term. Who's going to be the new governor for Delaware? Eric Holcomb, term limited by the Indiana Constitution in 2024, cannot seek re-election for a third. I love term limits. Some of these rat bastards, you get entrenched. Once you get in there, then you just get to keep power forever. You heard what fucking Nick Fuentes says. He just wants Trump to get elected in there one more fucking time and just let him stay in there forever. Former president of the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, Eric Doden, is running for the Republican nomination. U.S. Senator Mike Braun has announced an intention to seek the Republican. So do we like Mike Braun, Indiana? Do you like Eric Doden? And those are the Republicans. Does Indiana have a Democrat? Isn't that where the KKK was founded, in Indiana? That's what fucking Theo Vaughn said. I thought it was Memphis, Tennessee. I thought it was Nathan Bedford Forrest. And then there was the second KKK. The first KKK was Nathan Bedford Forrest. Was he from Indiana? Did he start it in Indiana or some shit? I'm sure it's the land of Indians, yet there's no Native Americans in the land of Indians. What's so goddamn ever? Where's the Shawnee at, Indiana? Where the fuck is the Shawnee at, you fucking Caucasian colonizing sons of bitches? Where's the Shawnee? Where's the Mingo? Where's the goddamn fucking Delaware? Where's the Creek? Where's the Skippakithiki? Former president of Indiana Economic Development Corp. So, Missouri, Mike Parson took office June 1st. This is interesting. 2018. He might have an argument to say that he can do another fucking upon the resignation of Eric. So this guy, Mark Parson, is going to pick up from, you know, Eric Greitens. He was elected to a full term in his own right in 2020 with 57% of the vote. So Mike Parson is going to take office. He went ahead and took more than 2 years. Since Parson served more than 2 years of Greeton's term, the argument is that he's already served a term. But I think he can make the argument that he didn't do 2 of his own terms. He did, the other guy's term, and he could do 2 more terms. But it depends on what Mike Parson believes. If Mike Parson believes he is constitutionally limited, maybe he's sick of the job, right? Maybe he can't wait to get out of the damn thing anyways. That's usually a good, I like Cincinnatus. I like George Washington's a piece of shit, but stepping down from power. We've had a nice, peaceful transfer of power. That has been a great goddamn legacy. Colorado says we can have a right to a revolution only as long as it's not repugnant to the U.S. Constitution. So we can have a revolution for federalism. We can have a revolution for elections, for our republic, for our constitutional republic. We could have a revolution for the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. When it comes to the Keystone cops and the Reno 911 cops and the douchey cops, why don't we have constitutional cops? I want a police officer that, goes after the fucking criminals, but also realizes that the whole point of us having a government is so that we have freedom, so that we need protesters, we need people speaking up, we need peaceful assemblies. The whole idea of making sure you got a strong Leviathan and you smashed out all the criminals is that we get to be free. But if the cops are making sure that we're not even getting goddamn freedom, they're just being, running the fucking show through goddamn terrorism, criminal fucking sovereign terrorism, right-wing fucking criminal sovereign fucking terrorism. Well, fuck that shit. We don't need that shit. I like the Constitution. I like elections. I like federalism. I like the 3 branches of government, and I like the rule of law. And none of those things are repugnant to the U.S. Constitution. You fought a revolution over federalism. The Constitution wants us to have a more perfect union, to have to establish justice and tranquility and some other things. But the very first thing is to form a more perfect union. So that's the point of America. If there's what's the main point of the American government? To form a more perfect union. And then there's 5 other fucking things: to establish justice and, some other shit. Missouri. So Mike Parson takes office. He basically has served, 1 whole term and then more. I would say in general, you probably should round up. So I could see the argument going both ways. You could round up and he's done his full term. But then I could also see him saying, well, he did Greeton's term. He didn't do his own term. Mike Parson wants to do his own term. Lieutenant Governor Missouri Mike Kehoe. Mike Kehoe is running for the Republican gubernatorial nomination. Mike Kehoe, Lieutenant Governor. So, okay, I guess we're just going to give it to that guy, huh? Let's find a progressive. Let's get, the most progressive person in both the Republican and the Democratic parties. We got to find a progressive. I don't know any progressives of anybody of any of these states, but I'm going to pay attention to these states and these states' elections because it's just 1-2 years away. And that's how you win. You prepare in advance. And I believe that these are the next collection of governor's races. If not, do we have a bunch of governor's races this year? If so, then I should be talking about those governor's races. If not, then good on me for all this. Yeah, your battery's running low. Okay, so Governor Roy Cooper reelected to a second term. 2020 with 51.5% of the vote. He's term limited by the North Carolina Constitution. Josh Stein, the Democratic Attorney General of North Carolina, and then Republican Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson was viewed as a potential candidate. So that's actually good. It seems like we got a bunch of fucking Republicans that's lined up to, take the power, but you don't have, where the Democrats at? Because they don't believe in democracy, because we don't believe in, because the way Biden got in there, it's just a bunch of assholes saying, get in line, motherfucker, or what, you're not with us. If you're not with us, you're against us. And they're doing this hardline shit, which I can understand if you came from the, fucking baby Bush years. The liberals are going to take a hard line, fucking stance to make sure that we never slide backwards. But if you're only going to do fucking glacier incrementalism, well, goddamn, you're giving it right back to Lauren Boebert, aren't you, AOC? We need you to be a progressive, to move the country forward. Give us the common sense. Give us a daily dose of common sense from the House, from your podium in the House. So North Carolina has Mark Robinson going against Josh Stein, maybe. We got at least one Democrat, one Republican. West Virginia, J.B. McCuskey, Carol Miller. So there you go. West Virginia, North Carolina, Missouri, Indiana, Delaware. I'd love to see a progressive governor in each one of those states in these laboratories of democracy. Let's, in the great pool of ideas, the best idea should come to the top, the best candidate, the best politician. We need to produce a new class. Abraham Lincoln is right. We need a political religion that reveres the laws. We need a brand new generation that gives a shit about America, the constitutional republic, and pass this important legacy on like it goddamn fucking matters. And it'd be awesome to have a progressive governor in West Virginia, North Carolina, Missouri, Indiana, Delaware. If you get 5, or North Dakota, if you get 6, I'll talk about North Dakota in a second. I only got one explanation point for that. But if you get 6 brand new progressives, that's 6, possible progressive candidates that could be president. Also, if they all have those presidential ambitions, then that means they're going to get better and better. They're going to hone their they're going to run their state like they've never run a state ever in their life. They're going to they're practicing for running America, right? In these laboratories of democracy. So let's have laboratories, let's have, laboratories of democracy, and let's talk about, I live in Colorado, and you might say, oh, that's not, fuck you. I'm allowed to fucking talk and say whatever the hell I want to, motherfucker. And it's for America. I'm doing it for America. So I think that Colorado is to, it would help Colorado if Indiana and Delaware and Missouri and North Carolina and West Virginia got their shit together too. I feel pretty confident about Colorado. I like Jared Polis. There's been a lot of goddamn changes. They should be working on consolidation of changes right now. North Dakota, Burgum is running for a third term, but North Dakota just got term limits. So this is not going to be Doug Burgum. He got reelected with 66% of the vote. So North Dakota is probably going to vote for Burgum again, most likely, but there's term limits now. So it'd be the last time he could fucking run for it. It'd be the third term and nobody else in North Dakota. So North Dakota finally graduated and got some goddamn term limits. You think you're better than Washington? You think you're better than the father of the fucking country? He stepped down. I love that, George Washington, this slave-owning piece of shit, stepped down out of the limelight and out of power and then stayed out of the limelight for about 4 fucking years, comes back and is president for 8 years and then, then dies of some crazy shit. They bloodlet him. They took 40% of his blood out of his body. So he might have been fucking killed by the fucking Bilderberg group or the goddamn Jesuits or he's a Freemason, wasn't he? Maybe that was like back then, but you're the president. Yeah, go ahead and take out half my fucking blood. No, doctor. Get that damn doctor. Find out who the hell does he work for? Who's paying him? The amendment only applies to individuals elected after 2023. So Doug Burgum can get reelected one more fucking time. So the next election of North Dakota will be fucking an open seat. It'd be awesome. It'd be term limited. It's going to be a brand new day, brand new person in North Dakota. So we're on our way. And Doug Burgum could lose. He could lose. Now, other states, Washington, Vermont, Utah, New Hampshire, Montana, American Samoa, and Puerto Rico, they all have elections too. There's 13 governor's races in 2024. 13 governor's races. Washington State, no term limits. You got Inslee. Jay Inslee's been in there for fucking 3 terms, and he wants a 4th term. He got 57% of the vote. So power and money, he'll keep it as long as he wants to. Washington doesn't have term limits in their constitution. So all these states, Washington, Vermont, Utah, New Hampshire, Montana, and American Samoa, and Puerto Rico, they all need goddamn term limits. Do you want them to fucking be in there for, 14, 15, 1800 fucking years? Now, there's only 2 exceptions, New Hampshire and Vermont. Now, these are exceptions because the governors only serve 2-year terms. So when they've been in there for 4 or 5 terms, it's not like they've been in there for, 10 to 20 years. If they've only been in there for 2 terms, that's 4 years. If they've been in there for 5 years, that's 10 years. So really, I think 10 years, a decade is like, in my mind, that's how I think of history. So a leader, a governor, a president, a mayor, you get a decade. You don't get no more than a fucking decade. 8 years tops, really. You should pick the decade and get in the beginning, right? You should be able to do your thing in, 4 years. That's the whole idea of a presidency or governorship. And 2-year terms, that's, right around the corner. So New Hampshire and Vermont, poor New Hampshire and Vermont, they have to run for election, every other. Basically, I guess they're always running for American politics. You start 2 years out. So if they're smart, then, they're always running for. So that has to kind of suck for Vermont and New Hampshire. Vermont. You do. Phil Scott is there for the 5th 2-year term. So 5th year. So he's going to be there for 10 more. 10 years. But that's it, Phil Scott. No more after fucking 10 years. Then you're just a goddamn dictator. Then just go retire and then tenure and then say run your mouth about Vermont's business and write a bunch of books until you kick the bucket. That's what Vermont needs from you. Phil Scott, Vermont's a fucking Bernie Sanders. It's a liberal state, right? But there's a lot of rural, and Phil Scott's been like this nice conservative, steady hand for Vermont for the past 8 years. There's no term limits, so he could theoretically just keep the state forever and ever. But you're a dictator after 10 years, Phil Scott. So we'll give you one more, maybe. But it's, not fair. Who the fuck is going to run up against Phil Scott? He's got it consolidated, and he's been. Utah, so New Hampshire also 4 years. Sununu can run again. Chris Sununu won a fourth term. So he's a Democrat, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure Chris Sununu is a Democrat. I think, because that'd balance out for the Vermont, right? And New Hampshire's like a bunch of conservatives being run by a Democrat. I'm not for sure. But just like Phil Scott, Chris Sununu is also running for a 5th fucking term. There's no goddamn, but it's also a 5th term of a 2-year term. So it sounds crazy, but then, so I'd freak out with Vermont or New Hampshire if they said 6th term. The governor's running for a 6th term. Get the fuck out of here. I'm sick of this shit. 6 times. I mean, if you can win an election 6 fucking times, he has to win the election. They have to make sure that the votes are counted correctly and properly. So we're assuming that the elections aren't fraudulent. Utah, the 2nd term, Cox, no term limits, but Cox promised. So Spencer Cox was elected in 2020 with 63% of the vote. Spencer Cox is going to run again. Utah doesn't have term limits. He pledged to only serve two terms. So it'll probably be Spencer Cox again, right? But he's only promised to serve 2 terms. He'll try to do a 3rd term. And also, why not fucking goddamn pass a term limit bill, Utah? Vermont, New Hampshire, no more than 10 years. No more than 5 2-year terms. And Utah, no more than 2 4-year terms. Maybe 3 4-year terms. But no fucking more than 12. Only FDR, that's because he fucking defeated the Nazis and stopped the Great Depression. Montana, American Samoa, Puerto Rico. Montana, no term limits. Gianforte, that piece of shit. He body slammed. He fucking did a Will Smith and got elected governor with 54% of the vote. So barely he's eligible to run for re-election. We don't know if he's going to do so or not. But there is an election. American Samoa, Puerto Rico, they're both eligible to run for a 2nd term. And I'm not for sure if they got term limits or not. Governor Lee Manu Pelletti Mauga was elected in 2020, 60% of the vote in American Samoa, and he's eligible to run for re-election, but hasn't said if he will. Pedro Pierluisi is the governor of Puerto Rico, elected in 2020 with 33% of the vote. So that's a plurality win. That wasn't a majority win. He's eligible to run for re-election. And he stated that he would on March 20th, 2022 during the New Progressive Party's General Assembly. I like the name, Pedro Pierluisi, the New Progressive Party's General Assembly. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. So hopefully the New Progressive, Pedro Pierluisi, gets reelected in Puerto Rico. Samoa, you basically assume that, your Gianforte, they're going to get rubber stamped. The governor's going to get right back in there. That's why I think it's exciting when you see these open seats, because some fucking change has to happen. Some goddamn change has to motherfucking happen. Continuity says to pick the same political party that your current governor is in. So that would be the conventional logic. It's also the conservative choice. And if it's a Democrat, then that means the Republican will have to appeal to progressives in the working class if they want to win.